Hi, everyone, and welcome to F-Bomb Friday. I am your host, Tracy Preston, along with my husband, Todd. Hey, hon.
Hey, baby.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
Let's hit it. You've heard of the Loch Ness Monster, right? Well, did you know that Michigan has its own large, lurking lake monster as well? That's right. Her name is Bessie, also known as the Lake Erie Monster or South Bay Bessie. Another fun fact of Michigan, with our surrounding of the Great Lakes, we get to share much of our lore and legends with our neighboring states and Canada. Bessie is a cryptid, a serpentine creature that is said to inhabit Lake Erie, Michigan's southernmost Great Lake. Along with Michigan, Lake Erie shares its shores with Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, and Ontario, Canada. Sightings of the Lake Erie Monster span for decades, with its first reported encounter from the late 1700s. The legend of Bessie has its roots in the First Nations culture with the name Onair, which comes from the Mohawk Indian tribe and means snake. Referring to a horned dragon-like snake that breathes poison and fire. The Lake Erie Monster got its name Bessie in the 1980s when the Port Clinton Beacon newspaper in Ohio held a contest to officially name the creature. The winning name was South Bay Bessie, named after Davis-Bessie nuclear power plant, and was over time shortened to simply Bessie. The creature's description varies from accounts, generally described as a large snake-like creature ranging from 20 to 50 feet long. Some sightings report Bessie has a dog-like head, while others say she has a large, flat head that resembles that of a snake. Some sightings mention large fins or appendages which look like human-shaped arms. Her colors have been described as gray, dark brown, copper, or silver. Some speculate that sightings could be misidentified large snapping turtles, old catfish, or schools of fish. Others suggest that Bessie could be a lake sturgeon, which is a large fish species that can reach lengths up to 10 feet long and weighing over 300 pounds.
That's a big fish.
That's a big fish. Sturgeon are cool looking, though.
Yeah.
The first recorded sighting of the Lake Erie Monster was in 1793 when the captain of the sloop, a small one-masted sailboat called Felicity, startled a large snake-like creature while shooting ducks just north of Sandusky, Ohio. He described the creature as being more than a good 16 and a half feet in length. In July of 1817, the crew of a schooner reported seeing a long, dark-colored serpent in Lake Erie that was 30 to 40 feet long. Not long after that occurrence, another boat crew witnessed a similar beast in the waters, this time 60 feet in length and copper-colored. The crew shot at the creature, which seemed to not affect it. Then, A third incident took place when two French settlers, the Doucet brothers, encountered a massive monster on the beach near Toledo, Ohio. The creature was writhing in a manner that the brothers took to be its death throes. They described it as being between 20 and 30 feet in length and shaped like a large sturgeon, except the beast had human arms. That would freak me out.
Right?
What the hell? Oh my God. The brothers fled the scene in a panic. Later, when they returned, the monster had disappeared. They presumed the creature was carried off by the waves of Lake Erie after its death. All that remained of its presence were the thrash marks in the sand and several silver scales about the size of silver dollars. The next sighting was in July of 1892. It made headlines in the local newspapers when an entire crew, including the captain, had an encounter with the monster. The ship was bound from Buffalo, New York to Toledo, Ohio, when everyone on board witnessed a large area of water about a half a mile ahead of them churning up and foaming. As the ship got closer, they saw a huge sea serpent that looked to be wrestling about in the waters as if fighting with an unforeseen foe. The crew watched as the creature relaxed itself and stretched out to its full length, estimated to be 50 feet long and 4 feet in circumference, and its head sticking above the water at least 4 feet. The monster was described as brown in color, had fins, and eyes that sparkled viciously. Another sighting was reported on May 5th, 1896, at Crystal Beach near Fort Erie in Ontario, Canada. 4 eyewitnesses observed a 30-foot-long creature with a dog-shaped head and a pointy tail. They watched the monster for almost an hour as it swam about and churned up the water until it finally disappeared just before nightfall. In 1960, Ken Golick was fishing off a pier in Sandusky, Ohio, when he heard 2 rats. He threw a rock toward the sound, and then he saw a large creature rise out of the water. He said the creature was shaped like a cigar and measured 1 to 2 feet wide. It pushed itself out of the water with its 4 flippers, then it rested on a beach nearby. Jim Schinder stated in 1969 that a giant serpent came within 6 feet of him near South Bass Island in Lake Erie. He couldn't say how long the creature was, but it was at least 2 feet wide. In 1981, Teresa Kovac of Akron, Ohio, saw a serpent-like reptile with flippers. She stated that the beast was large enough that it could have easily capsized a boat. She also stated that the creature appeared to be playing. Tony Schill of Akron witnessed a giant snake-like creature when he was boating in 1985 in Lake Erie. He reported that it was dark brown in color and had a long, flat tail. He also stated that the creature had 5 humps that came out of the water, and there was no possible way it could have been a sturgeon fish. Tony had a friend that was also boating with him that day, and he reported also that the serpent had 5 humps, but was closer to black in color. Later that same year, Dale Monroe claimed that he spotted a sea serpent from the Lorraine Coast Guard station. He stated it was visible for 4 minutes. He estimated that the creature was at least twice the size of his 16-foot long sailboat. In 1989, Gail Kastner obtained a fish finder graph from a boat that his friend owned. The fish finder had a sonar reading of a large cigar-shaped entity that was 35 feet in length and 30 feet underwater. There were 4 reported sightings of Bessie in 1990. One witness claimed to have seen a creature that was 35 feet long and had a head that resembled a snake. In another occurrence, Bob Sirocco claimed he saw a porpoise or whale while jet skiing in Lake Erie. However, porpoises and whales cannot survive in fresh water. Nonetheless, Bob insisted he recognized an aquatic air breather. He also stated that the creature was very long, had humps, and gray spots. On July 6, 2024, a boat was capsized on Lake Erie, leading to a series of rescues and a search for missing people. 2 people were rescued, 1 person was found dead, and the search for the 4th missing boater was suspended. The incident happened just off the coast of Erie, Ohio. Also, in 2024, the Coast Guard rescued 5 people clinging to a cooler after their 22-foot boat was swamped by a wave 10 miles off Ashtabula, Ohio. Although there is no proof of any connection to these occurrences, some speculate that it was Bessie that had something to do with them. Well, here's the deal. I've never even been to Lake Erie.
I don't think I have either. Isn't that strange?
It's totally strange, and maybe there's a reason why. I know, and we've talked about this before, that we're like, oh, we don't know what kind of big old fish are in the Great Lakes, but I'm certainly not ever going swimming in Lake Erie.
Well, Sandusky that's where Cedar Point is, right?
Yes.
Is that near Lake Erie?
Definitely Lake Erie.
You're so excited about the rides and stuff.
I know. Who cares? It's just water.
Right.
Yeah, but I don't know. What do you think?
Well, there's actually a lot of legendary lake monsters in all of the Great Lakes. And it could possibly be the same one. Could be Bessie, or a family.
Do you think it could be remnants of prehistoric type creatures?
Well, that's one of the things that has been suggested. I can't remember the name, but these creatures very much, according to eyewitnesses, do resemble creatures that lived during prehistoric times.
I mean, it makes sense. I wonder if it could also be like a prehistoric eel family. Did eels exist back then?
Oh, I would imagine.
Maybe that's just what's left.
Right. We got some deep waters, too, so, if they're just chilling and hiding out.
I wonder why it's Lake Erie, because I think Lake Erie is the shallowest.
It's the shallowest. It's the smallest.
And it's probably nowhere near as cold as, right, the upper Great Lakes, Michigan, Huron, right. Superior. So maybe that's why they're not there. They need that. I'm sure it's still cold, but nowhere near as cold as the other lakes.
Yeah. And with the one witness saying that he saw a blowhole, for this creature, could suggest that it's some type of mammal rather than a reptile.
Oh, well, that would make sense, right? Why do people have so many sightings? It's got to come up and take a breath.
Mm-hmm. Huh, and a lot of the descriptions were pretty close. 2 feet wide, which would equate to 4 feet in circumference. Various lengths, but anywhere between 20 to 60 feet.
Yeah.
So, but long is long. 20 feet's long, 60 feet's long.
Oh, yeah, it's long. I'm only 5'2".
Now, if we go back to the story with the mermaids, a lot of mermaid sightings where people were actually seeing aquatic animals and mistaking them for monsters. Like Christopher Columbus thought he saw a mermaid, and it was actually a manatee. Yep. So it's possible. You can't really make out stuff in the water sometimes, but there's something large, and there's movement.
Right. And if you live in Ohio, you better be real careful.
Ohio has a lot of the sightings, and it makes sense because they have the longest shoreline of Lake Erie. They have so many sightings that they've actually named their professional hockey team the Lake Erie Monsters. Their hockey team is called the Cleveland Monsters.
Really?
Yes.
Well, how about that?
And, Bessie is their mascot. How about that?
Well, how about it?
Now, when I was a kid, and I would say I was probably anywhere between 6 and 8 years old, we spent a lot of time up in Harrison at Lily Lake, which is a relatively small lake, maybe about a mile in each direction. But I always had this fear that there was a Loch Ness monster type creature in that lake. And I was terrified to go out on it sometimes. Just my imagination getting the best of me, I'm sure, but...
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I've had just being in a pool by myself get freaked out thinking, oh my God, there's a shark. I got to get out of here. It's a freaking pool. I can see. But no, that fear is real.
Yeah.
When you're little.
Yeah. I've always been fascinated with the Loch Ness Monster, so it was cool to learn about Bessie.
Bessie and the mitten.
Bessie and the Mitten.
Around the mitten.
Yeah. Yeah, we just got a short little strip there south of Detroit down to Ohio, but definitely one of our Great Lakes.
Well, when I fly home, I always fly into Detroit, and we always go over Lake Erie. We get pretty low, so I'm gonna look out the window.
Yeah, you better keep your eyes open.
See if I see something down there.
Look for 5 humps.
5 humps. And if I see something, I'm gonna say something.
See something, say something.
Thanks, Nina. A great story, hon.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to sign us out?
I sure do. You better lock your doors. You better lock your windows. And you might want to check under your bed.
And if I see a Slytherin Bessie, I'm going to whack it on the head.
Whack-a-hoe.
Whack-a-hoe. Well, thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. And we will see you again on Malice Monday.
See you on Monday.